Hi everybody, this is Wade from Wade's Orchids, and we're going to talk about terrestrial and semi-terrestrial plants today. There's quite a few plants that are falling into this category. You can see quite a few of them here. I pulled out a selection of plants that were in bloom and some that weren't in bloom, but these include your Cymbidiums here, and this is a Zygopetalums, so all your Zygopetalums. Here we have jewel orchids here and here. This is a frag, Paphiopedilum. Back here you can't see it very well. I'll hold it up a little closer for you. This is Stenoglottis longifolia. This is a terrestrial, just coming into growth. This is related to your Habenarias, and they go almost fully dormant. As the last leaves are falling off of this, I could see the new growth just starting to come up, and we're just a little bit past that point now, but we have healthy new growth coming up on this. Also, there's a genus called Liatris. This is Liatris grossa, or I'm sorry, Liparis. And this is a semi-terrestrial, and it covers quite a few plants. So anyway, the Cymbidiums were mentioned on Orchidaholics Anonymous, and there were a couple of people that were having some problems. Mostly what happens is this time of year you see a lot of them at the places like Trader Joe's and maybe Lowe's or Home Depot, places like that. And you get them home, and then you realize that the roots are not in very good shape, and you need to repot them. So I'm going to look at repotting with these. I don't have any to repot now, but I'm going to show you how to make a really good semi-terrestrial mix. And we'll look at some Cymbidiums and that. So one thing that you'll see with Cymbidiums here is this one is a semi-pendulous one. You won't find too many like that at your retail stores, but they're still very nice. Sometimes it's kind of funny. This is Cymbidium flirtation. Sometimes it goes upright. Sometimes they decide to go pendulous, but they're nice in any regard. Personally, I kind of like it like that. But one thing that you want to see with this is your Cymbidiums and terrestrials are potted in what's called a standard type pot. This is actually a nursery container. They call it a 1 gallon container. It's equivalent to a 6-inch standard pot. The reason you go with this instead of something with an azalea pot or something like that is because these things put out a lot of roots, and you need a place to go with them. Cymbidiums, I have seen Cymbidiums actually bust clay and plastic pots. I recommend plastic because these things like to be kept moist, sometimes even wet. We'll get into that a little bit later on. But they like a good amount of water, and they put out, the roots are very large, and they will just put pressure on a pot until it just cracks. So one thing to do is don't be afraid when you get your plants to unpot them, look at them. If they're fine, then just go and put them back in. Maybe have a little bit of extra media to go and throw into it if you need it. I do not use drainage for my semi-terrestrial or terrestrial plants because they like to stay moist all the time, and because of the type of media I use in them, water does not stand in the bottom of the pots ever, and it is just absorbed by the media. So it really isn't necessary. Also, it isn't necessary to have an extra drainage holes. Now this has one hole in the bottom there, you see, and there's 4 holes on the bottom corners there. And that is plenty, okay? Also, almost every Cymbidium that you will see is what is termed a mini Cymbidium. Yes, I know this is not really miniature, not by any stretch of the imagination. It's about 2 feet tall. But a standard Cymbidium doesn't get to be blooming size until it's about 4 feet tall. So you can see also the size of a standard Cymbidium is larger, the bulb is larger than an apple usually. Just huge, huge plants. So that's why they call these mini Cymbidiums. Also, most of your Cymbidiums that you see have got a degree of warmth tolerance built into them. Sorry to turn my back on you there. But Milton Carpenter, who's a past president of the American Orchid Society, did a lot of work on warmth tolerant Cymbidiums in Florida with a company called Everglades Orchids. There were a lot of warmth tolerance Cymbidiums, including the one I just showed you there, that were already going, so he had a lot of material to work with. But he wanted to bring in the fullness of the standard Cymbidium and the dynamic colors into the miniature Cymbidiums. And a lot of your Cymbidium breeding now, especially mini Cymbidiums, is from a lot of what he has done. So shout out to Milton Carpenter. I don't know if you'll ever see this, but he did an incredible job, and most of what you're enjoying right now is from the work that he has done and what others have taken up. So we're going to move the camera here, and I'm going to show you how the potting mix that I make up comes together, and hopefully you can make up some of your own and you'll have it ready for you whenever you want to do repotting. Okay, we're back again here, and this is the materials that I used to repot. Again, I mentioned that I use standard type pots. Plastic pots are preferable. Okay. Also, here's another example. Although these clear pots do have a problem when you're dealing with terrestrials, I find I get a lot of algae buildup on the outside of the pots because it's always damp in there, and the light can come through and it promotes algae growth. So you might want to stay away from the clear ones. But this is a good example of the type of pot as far as the how deep it is. Okay, you don't want to go with squatty pots or azalea pots. Also, you don't want to go with clay pots. Okay, now what we have here is this is kiwi bark. I highly recommend you guys spend the money and get kiwi bark or orchiata bark. I personally prefer kiwi because it retains its pH through the life cycle, and Fred Clark, Steve Mayle, other commercial growers have tried this. Fred has just finished 3 years of using this and has found that after 3 years the material is still not broken down. I've been using it 1.5 years, and the stuff is like new when I unpot stuff that it's been potted in. So it's expensive. I sell it for $40 for a bag, which is, I hate charging that price, but it's the way things are, and it really pays off in the end. Okay, so good quality bark, This is medium-sized perlite. This is a peat light mix. I make my own just out of peat and perlite. And this is New Zealand sphagnum moss. I put enough in here so it's full, but it's still kind of springy. Hope you can see that okay. So the first thing that we're going to do here is, I'll set this aside, and we'll get this out, and we have to chop this up, okay? So, get my garden shears here. This is a cross-cut pair of garden shears. I really think everybody should invest in one of these. The better quality you can get, the better. This is a Corona, and they do wear out after a while, but this has stayed sharp for a long period of time. So we're going to just chop this up. I like to get it real nice and tight when I chop it. That way I can go through it pretty quick. So it's not real important how fine this is chopped, but it just mixes up a lot better when it's chopped. You can, as you're doing this, you can keep an eye out for any weed or grass or anything that's in this, or sometimes you find a stick or something. It happens even with the best of sphagnum moss. Be careful when you're doing this that you know where the blades are. These things stay fairly sharp, and you can really cut yourself very easily. And it looks like we're getting a lot of sphagnum moss here, but once it's mixed up, it'll be fine. Something I wanted to mention is seedlings of paths and frags, other terrestrials, and even semi-terrestrials. You can pot in a straight sphagnum moss mix, or straight sphagnum moss. Make sure that you get good quality moss that is nice and fluffy, has good long fibers. Ray Barkalow at First Rays sells both good quality sphagnum moss and Orchids mix. Very good man. So we're going to now mix in the other ingredients here. I have to watch this a little bit because I have some lumps of peat moss in here, and I just squeeze it a little bit to break it up. And you can see there's fine perlite in this. Be careful with your perlite when you're pouring it, because perlite dust has got the potential to do the same kind of thing as asbestos does. Basically, it gets down in your lungs, and it clogs up the tiny passages in your lungs that actually do oxygen exchange. So just be careful with how you pour it and mix it up. So, also all of the ingredients here are dry except for the sphagnum moss. That was a bit moist. I should also mention, if you're on the West Coast, it's probably cheaper for you to get your kiwi bark directly from Fred Clark at Sunset Valley Orchids than it would be to get from me. So there we are, and like I said, all you have to do is when you repot, any semi-terrestrial orchid or terrestrial orchid, take a look at the roots. You can actually do it blindfolded. The roots that are rotted are very soft and squishy. Good roots are firm. Even if they're dark color, it doesn't matter. If they're firm, they're good. Okay? So after you go through, get the old mix out of there and get your roots cleaned up. Start with a handful or two of this to cover the bottom, like 1/4 of the pot, and then put the plant in and start putting in around it. Firm it down really nice, and then water it well, and you will have a plant that is ready to go for at least another 2 to 3 years. Okay? I wanted to mention a terrestrial mix for full terrestrial things such as here, this jewel orchid here, or Habenarias, or things like that. Is I use 1/3 fine bark mix, 1/3 perlite, and 1/3 peat moss. Okay, so that gives you a more water retentive mix and a finer mix. This will still have a good amount of air pockets in the mix, and allow your semi-terrestrials to flourish. Something I want to mention about feeding: a lot of your semi-terrestrials, particularly your Cymbidiums, your Zygos, they're heavy feeders. I like to, I don't put it in the mix, but I put it in the pot as I'm filling it. This is Osmocote, indoor and outdoor, feeds up to 4 months. This has got trace elements. Let me see here. I don't see offhand where it's at, but this is a really good thing to use to just mix a little bit in your pots as you're filling it up, and then usually every spring around mid-April or into May, I will take a little bit of this and try to work it into the top part of the potting mix of all my Cymbidiums and semi-terrestrials to give them a little bit of extra fertilizer, because when I fertilize all my plants the same. This way, these guys that really are heavy feeders will have more, and they'll have it with every watering, and they will really appreciate it, and they'll plump up even more for you, give you more flowers, better flowers, just be very, very rewarding. So I hope you learned a little bit from this, and I hope you liked it. This is Wade from Wade's Orchids. Click the like button if you want to see more things like this. Please subscribe. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.